we went out we went out there with machetes and little sticks that were like shaped like hooks, and we chopped down the jungle grass, and you would like hook the grass with a hook, and you chop down with the machete and sweep the grass away. And that's how we started. Three of us, me, Semi Lalai, and Junior, started just clearing the jungle grass, and we'd go out there day after day after day with those machetes and hooks and shovels and hose, giant hose. I wish they made a hose like this in the United States. Our hose are so puny compared to the hose that we were using down there. And we cleared out a bunch of jungle grass, and then we were like, okay, where do we get seeds? We don't know. And everybody got excited like when we had a patch of grass that was open for the first time, and we were like, oh, well, we have an open field. Like, what do we do now? We need seeds. And it just so happened that we had gone to the market and gotten some pumpkin earlier that day, and Dilo had made it some like pumpkin curry, and she's like, I saved the seeds from the pumpkin, like why don't we plant those? And so we went down, the first thing we planted were a bunch of pumpkin seeds from that pumpkin, put them in the ground, watered them, and then we made a special trip to the nearby town Nandi the next day and went to a little seed store and picked up some seeds and planted a bunch of tomatoes and some cucumbers and beans and eggplant. They call it bangani, and yeah, basil. We planted a lot of stuff, and we were just kind of doing a thing. And that cleared out, brushed out area was certainly not 7 acres. Let me tell you, it was like maybe a quarter of an acre, and that was a ton of work. That was backbreaking work for a week or so, and we still had a lot of land. And after we had planted out that like family farm area with mixed vegetables that were primarily just a subsistence farm thing. And so after doing that, I saw the value of mechanized. That was my first farming lesson on the value of using the right tool and economizing, being efficient with your labor. And so after that, we hired a local guy who owned a tractor with a plow, and he plowed up, well, we said it was going to be an acre, but we weren't very good at estimating land, and it was more like an acre and a half or 2 acres, and the guy's name was Lomu, and so we hired him. He came up and he plowed in the land, and he told us, he's like, look, don't plant stuff yet, because all I did was turn all that grass into the land, and it's got to sit there and rot for about a week or 2, and then I got to come and plow this again, and you should really do it another time again, so that the organic matter rots and so that everything works. And so and he was totally right, and I didn't know what he was talking about because I didn't know anything about farming at that time. But yeah, Lomu was totally right, and he was kind of give us this little dark look every time he came over. I only found out later it was because we told him it was 1 acre, and we agreed to the price of 1 acre each time he came out and plowed the land, but it turned out he was doing like a acre and a half or 2 acres each time. So I feel bad for Lomu. Maybe I'll have a chance to make up for it sometime in the future. But eventually we got it all plowed properly, or disked, I guess is the proper term we should use there. And we just had this empty acre and a half of land, and we planted it mostly with watermelon because, again, being novice farmers, we were just thinking of the things that fetch the most price at the market. And in Fiji, like in many other places, they really love watermelon. They view it as a delicacy, and we knew it had a good price. So we grew an acre of watermelons, and I would never do that again, ever, if I had that land, but that's just what we did because we didn't know what we were doing. We also planted some cassava and papaya and bananas and sweet potatoes and corn, and it was a huge amount of land for two people with hoes to cultivate. So we spent, once we got it all planted, we spent the next 4 months or something, 3 or 4 months out there every single day with hoes. And it was also a drought, so that was unlucky. It was Fiji's dry season, but it was, even during the dry season, usually it rains every once in a while, but it was 4 months without rain. So we had to dig a well, and we had these like old kerosene buckets that we would, or jugs that were like maybe 5-gallon jugs. We would go and we would fill them up with like a funnel. We hand dug 2 wells on the property, and we would just fish out water with this bucket tied to a rope and pour it through a funnel into these jugs, and we would just walk. We would walk all the way to the one end of the farm to the other and just hand water each and every one of these little plants for like the first couple months. Eventually, we sprung and put in irrigation, and that was the lifesaver. He did have running water, just not hot water, and that was really important. But like, man, I'd never, to that point in my life, had gotten so ripped, and I was tan, and I was super, I felt like super good and confident about myself, because suddenly I saw my body shape start to change. And of course, I'm living out in the middle of rural Fiji, and there's no, I was single at the time, but there's nobody to attract with my bronzed, muscled body at that point in time. So at least I got my self-esteem boost personally through that. But got good amount of happiness out of life in other ways during that time. And yeah, so all through the drought, we would wake up every morning, and no, I said we would wake up. About 2/3 of the mornings, Junior would wake up at like 5 a.m. and then go down there with the hose in between all those rows on that huge amount of land with this one water line and one hose we had, and water every single individual plant. It took 3 hours a day, I would say, just standing there with the hose and moving from plant to plant to give them water. And watermelon is a water-demanding crop too. So yeah, that's what we did for months, and it was a very intense time. We were also building the bure and making it bigger and better. We were experimenting with other crops, taking care of the family farm at the same time, growing eggplants and tomatoes and stuff. And it was a lot of hard work, and it was emotionally draining because there was a drought, and we poured a lot into this, and I was invested into it, and Junior was invested in it, and I knew that like I could go home anytime I really wanted to. I wouldn't, but I could. But I knew that this was like a lifeline for them. So yeah, that series of months was incredibly intense and heart-wrenching. It really is like I'd say the formative experience of my life, working on that farm for those few months, and just being part of the family, going to markets on Saturday mornings and stuff, taking cold showers all the time, every day. Man, that was some fun stuff.